All right, so here we go, guys. We're going to be doing section 2.7, part C, and this is on solving systems of equations. I'm trying to see this thing here. So, the main thing that we have to do here is in section 2.7a, we solve systems by graphing. In 2.7b, we solve systems by substitution. Okay? So in 2.7c, we're going to use elimination. Okay? So with elimination, basically, we are going to line them up. Okay, so remember with substitution, I said step one, get two equations. Step two, put them side by side. Here, we don't want to do that. Okay, so let's go over a how-to. So, how to solve by elimination. Now, there's actually two ways that you can do elimination. Hopefully, we get more of the easier types, but the harder types are not that difficult. They require an extra step, but here you go. Step one, you are given two equations. Step two, align the equations vertically. Okay, I'm going to put right here, match the letters. Because sometimes they might give you like an x plus y equals 10 and a y plus x equals 13. Well, if the letters are kind of not matching vertically, make them match vertically. Move the stuff around so that they match up, okay? The x's should be aligned vertically. The y should be aligned vertically. Or if they're using a's and b's, then those should be aligned vertically. The numbers that don't have letters should be aligned vertically, okay? Everything has to be lined up nicely. Okay, so align the equations vertically. Step three, add or subtract. I always tell people just add first, and if it doesn't work, then subtract. So many times people get stuck on should I add or should I subtract? Which one? I have no idea. I don't know. Well, just do one. It doesn't matter. You do one, and if it works, great. If it doesn't, then most likely you were supposed to subtract. Okay? Here's going to be I'm going to put like 3.1. Okay, I changed the color here, but like a 3.1, if adding or subtracting didn't work, you may have to multiply to make variable coefficients match. Okay, so you may have to multiply to make variable coefficients match. When we get to those, you'll understand what I'm talking about, okay? But that's just like an extra step, because usually adding and subtracting should work, but if it doesn't, then maybe it's because the variables don't have coefficients that will cancel each other out, right? This is called elimination. That means I got to get rid of something. So if I don't get rid of something, then something must be off. So maybe I got to fix it. 3.1 is the fix. Okay? So step 4, solve for the remaining variable. Okay, once you get that answer, use that solution, or use the solution from number 4. to solve for the remaining variable. Now, again, the how-to is always lengthy, just like it was yesterday for substitution. But once you get used to it, you really don't go step by step. You kind of say, okay, I just got to do this, this, and that, and I'll be good. But these are basically your how-tos, okay? This is what you have to do in order to solve for one of these things. Now, like I said, I didn't need you guys to do the back page, but just using the front here, let's work on a couple of these things. So let's start off with like number 1. Okay, we'll do at least 3. So number 1, this is from your worksheet. Notice it's already lined up. Some people like to put a lot of space in between. I'm going to do that just in case you're one of those people. Okay, so 2x minus 3y equals negative 23. Negative 2x plus 2y equal to 22. Okay. Now you notice I am going to change color because I am going to be doing different things. So I want you to know what steps were taken. So remember, the first step that they ask, or I ask you to do, is that you're going to be given 2 equations. There you go. Align the equations vertically by matching the letters. Notice how my x's and y's and numbers are all lined up nicely. Okay. Step 3 says add or subtract. I told you just add. Okay. Don't even think about it. Just add. Now, if you already are used to doing this, then feel free to think about what you need to do. But I'm just going to add without thinking about it. So 2x, I'm going to add vertically, okay? 2x plus a negative 2x, that's going to cancel out. Okay, notice I just eliminated my x variables. This is why it's called elimination. Okay, so those are going to cancel out. Negative 3y plus 2y, that's a negative y. Okay, because negative 3 plus 2. And then negative 23 plus 22, that's negative 1. So all I have to do now to solve for y is just divide both sides by negative 1. So I'll get y equals 1. Now remember, all of these answers are supposed to be points, right? So let me get a little coordinate pair thing over here. And I know that the answer for my y value is 1. Okay? So now I'm at step 4, right? Solve for the remaining variable, y equals 1. So 5, use the solution from number 4 to solve for the other variable, the remaining variable, the x. So all you have to do is pick one of those 2 equations, either the top one or the bottom one, to plug in y. I'll pick the top one. Okay, so 2x minus 3 times, let me actually use a different color here, times 1 is equal to negative 23. And now just start solving. So we get 2x minus 3 equals negative 23. If I add 3 to both sides, I get 2x equal to negative 20. And if I divide both sides by 2, I get that x is equal to negative 10. So I'm going to go back to that point that I did on the left side and put negative 10. Remember, you can check your answer by plugging it back in like was said yesterday, or using Desmos. Right? You can use Desmos to actually check and graph both of those equations and look to see where the equations crash into each other. And you should be able to see that it's found at negative 10, comma 1. But this is elimination. Again, we'll do another one that isn't as easy. Okay, we'll do 2 of the harder types. One easier one. This was kind of the easier one. Okay, I didn't have to do anything special. I didn't have to do step 3.1. But on this next one, I'm going to do step 3.1 on it. Okay. So we're basically just getting the 2 equations. We tried to add them. It worked. If it doesn't work, by the way, sometimes people say, how do you know it doesn't work? you'll get an x and a y still. After you add or subtract, you'll still see an x or a y. Sorry, x and a y. And that's not good, because on your first step, you're supposed to eliminate. Okay, and if something doesn't disappear, that means something's wrong. All right, so let me show you what I mean. Let's look at number 5. Again, this is being recorded for you guys, so if for some reason you kind of didn't write something down, or you heard me say something and you want to take notes on that, just listen to it later. Example 5, x minus 6y equals negative 14, and 8x plus 2y is equal to negative 12. Now, I want you guys to notice something really quick. Let me go back up to the previous example. You see how in the previous example, my x's had the same main number, even though they weren't both negative or positive, right? But they both had the same root number, a 2 and a 2. That's why the x disappeared when I did an addition or subtraction. Okay? The y didn't disappear because notice that for the y, I had a 3 and a 2. Different numbers. So that's why the y didn't eliminate. Okay? But the x eliminated because I had the same root number, a 2 and a negative 2, but nonetheless, it's a 2, right? That's why the x's disappeared. Notice number 5. The x on top has a number 1. You can't see it, but it's a 1, and the one on the bottom has an 8. For the y's, there's a 6 and a 2. If I add or subtract, nothing will cancel. Now, don't write this down, okay? Let me just do this really quick. If I add, I get 9x minus 4y equals negative 26. Notice no elimination occurred. By the way, don't write that down. I'm just showing you. No elimination occurs. So I failed in doing what I'm supposed to do. Okay, well then maybe it wasn't addition. Maybe I should subtract. 1 minus 8 is negative 7x, and negative 6 minus 2 is negative 8y, and negative 14 minus negative 12 is a negative 2. Again, nothing got eliminated. I failed at what I needed to do. Okay? So when that happens, this is when step 3.1 occurs. Okay? Step 3.1, what you're supposed to do is ask yourself, which letter do I want to get rid of? And there's no wrong answer to this. There's an easier answer to it. But you pick a letter, any letter you want to get rid of. Let's just go with x. Okay? I want to get rid of x. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply the whole equation. Okay? The top equation and the bottom equation by the opposite, let me not say opposite, sorry. By the corresponding coefficient, meaning there's a 1 here, right? The 1x. I'm going to multiply the bottom equation by the 1 from the x. And then the top equation, I'm going to multiply it by the 8 from the other x. Okay, so this 1 went there. Right now I'll erase these things. And this 8 went there. I'll erase the arrows, that way it doesn't confuse people. But I'm just showing you guys. Okay? So let's multiply out. So when I multiply this thing out, 8 times 1x, I'm going to multiply these 3 things, okay? I'm going to go in that way. So that's 8x minus 48y equals to negative, what is that? That's a 32, 8, 9, 10, 11, this is 112. Okay, so negative 112. Now the bottom equation is easier, multiplying by 1, so everything stays the same. That's 8x plus 2y equals negative 12. Alright, now I have 2 brand new equations. But notice how the x's match now? 8x and 8x. So in order to cancel 8x and 8x, should I add or subtract? Let's subtract it, right? So let's do minus So 8x minus 8x, that's going to cancel. So I don't have to worry about that. Negative 48 minus 2 is a negative 50. Y. Negative 112 minus negative 12. Notice it's a minus negative, okay? Because you got to do the negative in the front. So negative 112 minus a negative 12 is a negative 100. So if I divide both sides by negative 50, I get that y has to equal to 2. So notice I'm going to make another little coordinate pair right here, and I know that y is equal to 2. Now I just got to figure out what x is. So go back to your original equations. You have a top equation, which is x minus 6y equals negative 14, and a bottom equation, which is 8x plus 2y equals negative 12. You pick one and you plug in your y value. I'm going to pick the top equation because it's easier, okay? So x minus 6 times 2 equals negative 14. I'm plugging in my y equals to 2 into the equation. Well, 6 times 2 is 12, so it's x minus 12 equals negative 14. We'll add 12. So x is equal to negative 2. So I'm just going to put that right here, negative 2, comma 2, and that is my solution. So this is a problem that does have that extra little step, the 3.1 step, okay? Where you're going to have to notice like, oh man, when I added or subtracted, it did not eliminate a number. So I'm going to have to do something to fix it. And the way we fix it is by multiplying by the corresponding either x or y value, okay? By the coefficient of those variables. You get to choose which letter you want to get rid of. Notice I chose x's, so I used the 8 and the 1. And notice the x's got canceled out. Okay, that's what happened, because I picked it. If you didn't want to see the y values, then you should have multiplied the bottom equation by 6 and the top equation by 2. It's up to you. It doesn't matter. Just do one or the other. Okay? So again, let's do one of these that are a little bit more on the challenging side. So let's look at number 10. Okay? Number 10. Because number 10 actually makes you do a little bit of housework before you actually do the problems. Notice 22 plus 7x equals negative 3y. And then they give us negative 8y equals negative 2x minus 24. Now, if you remember what I told you guys earlier, you got to get two equations, align them vertically, and I told you make sure the variables are matching up. And if you look, they're all over the place. Okay, so I'm going to have to get the top equation, the 22 plus 7x equals to negative 3y, and I'm going to have to make it so that there's an x, a y, and a number. Okay, so let me do this really quick. 22 plus 7x equals negative 3y. Let me move the number over to the right side. I'm going to subtract it. So I get 7x equals negative 3y minus 22. And then let me get that negative 3y and put it to the left so I can have my variables on the left side. So I'm going to add 3y here and add 3y here. So I get 7x plus 3y equals negative 22. So one of these things is now fixed. I have it fixed so that it has my x, my y, and my number. Okay, so let me write that down over here. 7x plus 3y equals negative 22. But now I have to do the other one as well. Okay, so let me write that down. Negative 8y equals negative 2x minus 24. This one will be a little bit easier because I just got to move the x variable over. So let's add 2x to both sides. So I get 2x minus 8y equals negative 24. So let me put that over here. 2x minus 8y equals negative 24. Now look at my x variables. Okay, a 7 and a 2 are the coefficients. Is that going to eliminate if I just add or subtract? No, they don't match up at all. What about my y variables? Are they going to eliminate? No, because one is a 3 and one is an 8. So if the numbers don't match up at least in their root, okay, if it was like a 7 and negative 7, that's perfect. But if they don't match up at least in number, then I'm going to have to do step 3.1, which is multiply stuff out. Which letter do you guys want to get rid of? You tell me. Actually, you know what? I'm going to pick. Because there's some inconsistencies in teaching, and I just want to be honest with you guys. I'm going to get rid of the y. Okay? I'm going to get rid of the y. And let me explain what I mean by some inconsistencies. So maybe you were taught that if you want to get rid of the y's, you're going to multiply the bottom equation by 3 because there's a 3 right there. Right? What would you multiply the top equation by? Would you multiply it by an 8 or by a negative 8? What did they teach you guys? By negative 8, right? I'm going to tell you it doesn't matter. Okay? Yes, a negative 8 is what usually they tell you that you should do. Here's the reason why I don't like to put the negative in there. Don't you sometimes forget to carry that negative into another number and change the signs as you're multiplying? Right? Sometimes it happens. So why do I want to give myself an opportunity to mess up? So let's not put it. Just do the 8. Just use the root number. Forget about the sign. We'll fix that later. Just do the number, okay? So let's multiply this out. 8 times 7 will be 56. X plus 8 times 3, that's 24y. And 8 times 22, that's negative 176. Am I right on that? 16? Yeah, 176. And then let's multiply by 3. So 3 times 2, that's 6x. 3 times negative 8, that's negative 24y. And 3 times negative 24, that's a 12. So 72. Notice how my y's match up in number. If I want to eliminate my y, should I add or subtract? Notice I got a 24 and a negative 24. Should I add those numbers or subtract them? I should add them, right? Because they're opposite signs. So they'll cancel if I just add them together. So let me add. Notice I didn't pay attention to the negative 8 at all. I just put an 8 there, but it's still going to be fine. So 56 plus 6 is 62x. 24 plus a negative 24 cancels. And that's equal to negative 76 plus a negative 72. I got to add those numbers. So that's a 8, a 4, and a 2. That's negative. I got to double check here. I'm bringing out my calculator because I don't know this off the top of my head, but does 248 get divided by 62? Yeah, it does. 4 times. Nice. Okay, so I'm going to divide both sides by 62. So x is negative 4. Okay, so I got my x value. Let me put a little coordinate point here. Negative 4 for x. But now I get to plug that number back into my original equation. And let me zoom out really quick. Look at how messy this problem is getting. Okay? So be very clean with your work. Okay? I'm trying to be clean and it still looks kind of messy. Alright? So I'm going to plug in negative 4 into one of these equations, either this one or that one. Okay? I mean, you could also pick this one, or you could also pick this one or that one, to be honest with you. You could do any of those 6. But sometimes when you already multiply out, the numbers get bigger and bigger and bigger. So when you plug into the later equations, your answer starts to like blow up. So I would say go with one of the first 2. Which one do you guys want to do, the top or the bottom? And when I mean by top or bottom, let's go with the blue one or the green one. That's what I'm talking about. The blue one? Okay, so we'll go with the blue one here. So the top one. Let me plug that in. So not negative. It's I think I erased something by accident here. 22 plus 7x. So 22 plus 7 times. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. I'm just zooming out right now because I want to be able to see the equation. Equals negative 3y. Okay, let me zoom in again. All right. Now, I know that 7 times negative 4 is negative 28. So that's 22 minus 28 equals negative 3y. 22 minus 28 is negative 6. So that's negative 3y. And if I divide both sides by negative 3, what's my answer? What do I get? 2. Thank you. So y is 2. So I'm just going to go back to my ordered pair and put a 2 there. And there you go. So you guys are going to be responsible for working on the other problems. These do take time, okay? So please take your time with them. Ask questions tomorrow if you guys need it.